I keep doing this. It's so fun. Bonk bonk. Hello gamers and welcome to my channel. If you are new here, this video is for you specifically. I have never really made any videos introducing myself on the channel, and so I figured now was a good time to do that. It's the start of a new year, perfect time to reinvent myself as a person as I do every other year because, you know, it's the new year, new me, and I take that a little bit too seriously. But as my channel does focus a lot on books, I decided to do Get to Know Me Bookish Edition. I found a bunch of questions online, so I'm going to answer those. I'll leave all the questions in the description, and if you want to answer them yourself in the comments, go for it. I would love to hear your answers. I will just give you a little bit of background information on me, I guess. My name is Jay. I am 18 years old and I live in Canada. I make mostly book or fashion related videos, but I will make literally anything. As long as it makes me happy, that's what I do. I also stream over on Twitch. I stream mostly Minecraft. I haven't been streaming yet this year because I've been really busy, but I'm going to start streaming more. I've said that about 5 times now and never actually followed through with it, but maybe this is the time. I am a Slytherin, a Gemini, and an ENFP. And yes, I have had it pointed out to me several times. I know I don't look like the type of person who should run a booktube channel. Emo bitches who read books, rise up. Where are you? I need you. With that little bit of background information out of the way, now I'm going to actually answer the questions. There are 29 questions, so we're gonna be here for a while. Question 1, what are 5 of your favorite books? 5 of my favorite books. I have a lot of favorite books. Oh, this is hard. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman, Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, Jane Austen's Emma, and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, because I've talked about it before, we're not gonna. What are your 5 favorite series? I don't know if I've actually read 5 series. I don't read a lot of series. I read mostly standalone books because I am an impatient little bitch who can't wait for sequels. But of the ones I have read, Harry Potter, obviously, Shadowhunters Chronicles by Cassandra Clare, all of them, but especially the Dark Artifices trilogy, the Chronicles of Narnia, and the Maze Runner trilogy. I don't have a 5th. I have not read a 5th series that I've actually really enjoyed. 5 favorite authors: Cassandra Clare, Alice Oseman, Adam Silvera, Jane Austen, and Neil Gaiman. Is this getting repetitive yet? What is the most recent book you couldn't finish? I force myself to finish books. Even if I do not like the book, I will force myself to finish it. I do not care how much I hate the book, I am going to finish it. I will see that thing through till the end. So if it's not done yet, it will be done eventually. I'll make sure of it. What is a book that you're currently reading? That ties well into the last question. 2 books that I'm currently reading, The Princess Bride and 6 of Crows. I have to finish The Princess Bride eventually. It is my friend Ghost's favorite book and I've been persevering. For some reason, my brain is just like, no, you can't read this today. You can't read this tomorrow either. You can't read this any day. And I don't get why, because it's a good book. It's not like I dislike the book. I got hit with the biggest reading slump of my life in 2020, and that reading slump did not end until pretty much the end of 2021. So it's been a hot second since I read a book. I read a couple of things, don't get me wrong, like I have read stuff, but really not as much as I used to. What is the last book someone recommended to you? The last book someone recommended to me was Legendborn. My sister recommended it to me, she's read it, she loved it, she said I could borrow her copy, so I might go about reading that. What is the oldest book you've read by publication date? I don't know specific publication dates, but I think it is Frankenstein. Frankenstein was written in the very early 1800s, I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on that. If it's not Frankenstein, then it's probably something Jane Austen. What is the newest book you've read by publication date? That is the trickier one. Because it has been so long since I've actively sat down and read books, I don't actually know. My best guess is that it's We Are Totally Normal, so that's what I'm gonna go with. What is a book that you dislike that everyone seems to love? I've talked about this in a video before, but my hottest take is that I didn't like Ari and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, or whatever the fuck it is. I don't remember the title. I just didn't like it. I've talked about it in a video before. I just didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. Something about that book just objectively bothered me. Sorry. I know it's very hot take, but I just didn't think it was good. I have no plans on reading the sequel. Sorry. What is a book that you can always reread? I don't know if it counts because it's a graphic novel series, but it is Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. I didn't put that in my favorite series because I don't know if it counts because it's graphic novels, but I've reread them so many times. I follow the updates on Webtoon. I own all of the physical copies. It warms my heart. I love it so much. Everything about that series makes me so happy. What is your favorite genre? I would say it's probably YA fantasy or YA contemporary. I'm a big fantasy person. I freaking love fantasy. Something about like developing worlds and the world building, all of this like interesting new stuff that's like a whole world you get to make up in your brain and go along with as the author is writing it. Chef's kiss. I personally like writing fantasy the most as well. It's just so fun. You can be so creative with fantasy. Nothing has to make sense because it's not real. It's a fantasy world. I just really love fantasy. But YA contemporary is also really good. I do really enjoy reading YA contemporary. Those are the books that make me sad the most often, and those are the books that I find myself most heavily relating to. I don't know, it's kind of a toss-up. Like fantasy I really love, but YA contemporary I find it so much easier to relate to the books and relate to the characters in those books. So I don't really know. Hardcover or paperback? I am a slut for a good hardcover book. They're just so nice, they last longer, they look so nice on bookshelves. They are also more expensive. I own significantly more paperbacks because they are cheaper. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with either kind of book. You know, they both have their pros and they both have their cons, but I really don't have anything against either of them. They're both perfectly good ways to have books. I just own more paperback because they're cheaper, and I think hardcovers look really nice on your shelves. Buying books or borrowing books? Buying books. I cannot borrow books from people. I can't do it. One time I lent someone a book and they stole it, and I don't trust myself not to do the same thing. So we buy books. Also because I really love owning books, like just having them to keep and to hold forever. Moving out is gonna be a pain in the ass. Bookmarks or dog ears? Bookmarks. I hate dog earing books. It's so destructive. For what? Like, what is the point in dog earing a book when you can literally put a piece of paper in there? Like a fucking Taco Bell receipt. Like, you can put anything in there to hold your spot. Why would you purposefully be destructive towards the book? That just makes my heart sad. Do you write in books? Similarly, no. I think I really should get into annotating books because like I have a lot of thoughts on them. Something I've always wanted to do is to annotate a copy of my favorite book for one of my best friends for their birthday. My handwriting is absolutely disgusting. Nobody can read it, not even me half the time. So that wouldn't be a good idea. And for that reason, I find annotating books and writing in books just to be pointless as well, because I can't read it half the time. Like if I go back and try and read the thoughts that I scribbled into it, it's not gonna make any sense because I won't be able to understand half of it. It is for that same reason that I almost failed English, because I hate annotating. And so I just didn't do it and got so many zeros for not having annotations on our books. Can you read whilst listening to music or watching TV? I can read while listening to music. I can't read while watching TV. I actually really love listening to music while I read. Part of that is because I want to get my listening minutes up on Spotify, because like 40-something thousand seems kind of weak. I feel like it helps me to get more immersed into the stories if I'm reading, especially if I have a playlist of songs specifically geared towards the book or the genre that I'm reading. Tell me sitting and listening to Hosier while reading a Jane Austen novel doesn't sound ideal. Do you read your books in one sitting or over multiple days? It really does depend. It depends on how much time I have to read, honestly. I typically read over the course of several days just because I don't have enough time to sit down and read a book in one sitting. But if I do have the time and I get really into that book, then yeah, I can read it in one sitting. I've done that so many times. I did that with the entire Shadowhunters series. I read all 6 books in the City of Bones in like 3 days because I just got so into it and I sat down and read it all in one day. So it really does depend on if I have the time, if I'm really into the book. Like if the book has a slow start and I'm not really feeling it at first, I'll probably put it down for a couple of days and come back to it. But then if I get into that book, I'll finish it quickly. So it really depends. I also have read books in one day just because I wanted to get them over with, like Ari and Dante. Can you stop reading at any time, or does it have to be on a certain page or chapter? I cannot stop reading in the middle of a page, and if I'm really close to the end of the chapter, I will just finish the chapter, but I can stop like mid-chapter if I have to. I've never had a problem with that. I just can't stop in the middle of a page. I don't like stopping in the middle of a chapter. I'd honestly prefer reading the entire chapter, but I can if I need to. Stop in the middle of the page if it's a thing of like, oh, I'm reading on the train and I just switched trains, so I'm gonna, keep my thumb in the page and I remember because it's like a 2-minute thing. If it's more than like 5 minutes between when I put it down and when I pick it back up again, I can't stop in the middle of a page because I will completely forget where I was. Do you eat or drink anything whilst reading? Nothing specific. Like sometimes I'll, eat a little snack, drink a little bit of iced tea, I don't know. But I don't have anything specific that I like to eat or drink while I'm reading. I've just never really been that person that's like, oh yeah, I have to have like my cup of tea, my cup of coffee while I'm reading my book. But like, that's not just not the type of reader I am. I'm also always paranoid that I am going to spill something on my books. Do you read one book at a time or multiple books at a time? I will read multiple books at a time because I have such a bad habit of forcing myself to finish books I don't like. If I only read one book at a time, I would never read again. I'd be reading a book I didn't like and I'd put it down and be like, I'll finish it eventually, but I can't read anything else till I finish it. So I'm just not going to read for this very long period of time while I'm putting off finishing this book that I hate. And I don't want to do that. There have also been several instances where I'm reading my own books in my personal time, and I've also had to read a book for school. And so if I was only reading one book at a time, it would be really slow, and it's just not for me. I will read multiple books at a time. I will get the plot lines confused, but I will love them equally. Do you read mostly at home or everywhere? I read pretty much anywhere. As I said, it's common for me to read on the train. I love reading at the library. Something about just being at the library, reading a book, the vibes are great. I used to read in class a lot. I remember distinctly one of my most distinct book-related memories. I was reading the Bane Chronicles and I was really into it. So I brought my book to gym class. We were doing archery, so there was a period of time where we'd be sitting waiting for our turn, and so between my turns, I would read my book in the middle of gym class. Who did I think I was? And it was still a consistent thing. I never again brought a book to gym class, but I always read in class. I got in shit with so many teachers for reading in class. When I was rereading the Harry Potter books in 10th grade, I think, I got called out by my teacher for reading in her class when I just wanted to finish my Harry Potter, okay? I can read literally anywhere, anywhere. Do you read out loud or read in your head? I read in my head. I cannot stand the sound of my own voice most of the time. Sometimes I'll get a line that I'm like, and then I'll read it in a shitty British accent out loud, mostly with period novels, specifically Jane Austen. I'll just be fucking sitting here and I'll read a line and I'll be like, that was gorgeous, and then my brain will just go, read it out loud in the worst British accent. If I loved you less, perhaps I'd be able to talk about it more. Do you read ahead or skip pages? Not really, no. One thing I will do is, depending on the book I'm reading, I skip sex scenes because I don't want to read that. That is the only time I really skip pages though, is if it's a sex scene. Especially when I was younger. When I was a kid and I'd be reading a book, they'd start fucking, I'd be like, and immediately skip forward. And I still do that. The only time I've ever not done that is that time I read 50 Shades of Grey just to see what it was about. It wasn't worth it. Do you like breaking the spine or do you prefer to keep the books new? Breaking the spine is so satisfying, but I once broke the spine too much and it's just a crease and it pisses me off because it's almost on the center of the book, but not quite. I'm not super concerned with oh, the books have to stay in perfect condition, you can't tell that they've been read. I'm gonna read my books. It usually involves breaking the spine because I'll be doing something and I won't feel like putting a bookmark in because I have to go for a second, so I'll just flip it upside down and put it down, and that breaks the spine. A little wear and tear on the books from it being obvious that they've been read is one thing. Actively letting your books get really destroyed is another thing. Oh, they're a little banged up, with little curled bits at the end because they were in a bag. Like, that's fine. I don't really mind that. Or like broken spines from the books being read over and over again, or like worn down pages from the books being read several times. That doesn't bother me. It's the like giant rips and like missing chunks of covers and stuff that I just, how do you let your books get like that? Do you prefer physical or ebooks? I prefer physical books. As I said, I do just like having, you know, a book to hold and read. There's something really nice about having the physical book, and I love the aesthetic of having like a really full bookshelf, and I love all of that stuff. But I do also have a Kobo. I do read things digitally. You know, like, I'm not picky. If I can't get to the bookstore to buy a book, I'll just buy it online. Like, it's not a big deal. I'm not super picky about it. I just prefer the aesthetic of physical copies, but that doesn't stop me from reading ebooks, because ebooks can be very convenient sometimes. Do you listen to audiobooks? Yes, I do. I have recently gotten really into audiobooks, actually. The job I just had, I don't have it anymore, but the job I just had was very far away. It was like a 2-hour train ride, and like, I didn't really know what to do with myself. And for the first couple of days going there, like, I didn't really know where I was going, so I didn't feel comfortable actually reading a physical book, mainly because I just didn't want to miss my stop. You know, because of that, I got really into audiobooks. I listened to the audiobook version of Frankenstein. It's narrated by David Dobrik, which is a little weird. I'm not gonna lie, that was a little bit weird, but it makes book reading really convenient and really easy. And I know it doesn't really count as reading, but I found it very convenient, especially when I had such a long trip to work. And so I do deeply appreciate audiobooks. I've only ever listened to a couple of them, but I think I'm going to really start getting into audiobooks. How many books in a series are too many? I'd say like 6 is a very good cutoff number. You know, like, a couple of really good series that I like have 6 books, 7 books, like, in there. Like Harry Potter, 7 books. City Bones, 6 books. Narnia, 7 books. Like, it's like a good cutoff point. Anything longer than that of one series, and I feel like it just gets way too much. The Shadowhunters Chronicles, I feel, are a little bit different because it is a very, very long series, but it's a series split into several series. So you're never reading the same plot point over and over and over and over again. Except you kind of are sometimes, because those books can get a little bit repetitive, but because the characters always switch, it does make it more interesting. If you're reading about the same characters for book after book after book after book, it gets so boring. The only time I haven't had issues with that is with manga. It's like, there are really long manga series out there, and I've read some really long ones. Like, my favorite manga series has 26 volumes currently, and I've read all of them, and I enjoyed almost all of them. That is the only time I've found that to not be as big of an issue. Love triangles, yes or no? I actually have an entire video on my thoughts on love triangles, specifically some of the best and worst love triangles in media. The basic thought I have on love triangles is, yes, I do enjoy a good love triangle if they're done correctly. I talked a lot about it in that video, so if you want to go watch that, you can see my full opinions on love triangles and what makes a good love triangle, and my opinions on certain love triangles in media and whether or not I think they were actually good ones. But the short of it is that, yes, I do accept a good love triangle every now and then. And our final question, how do you feel about cliffhangers? Well, I enjoy cliffhangers. Cliffhangers are infuriating. I get that. I am with you there. If you don't know what's happening and it just ends and there's no resolution to that, it's super frustrating. And cliffhangers fucking suck if there is no guaranteed follow-up. But if there is a cliffhanger and there's a guaranteed follow-up, it increases the hype of the follow-up so much, and it makes you so much more interested in sequels. Even like small cliffhangers, like at the end of a chapter, if you're like, I think I'm just gonna read this chapter and then I'm gonna go to bed, and then there's a cliffhanger at the end of the chapter and you're like, oh fuck, I gotta finish reading this. I feel like they instill this sort of hype and a necessity that you need to keep reading, and I do greatly enjoy that. I like having my brain be like, yo, I need to read more. I need to know more of what's going on. Like, yes, it's frustrating when there's a cliffhanger at the end of a book and you have to wait a year or 2 years for the sequel. Yes, I am talking about you, Simon Curtis. Where the fuck is the next book? But they can be really satisfying, especially when they have good payoff. And that does it for all of the questions. If you guys have any more book-related questions that you want me to answer to get to know me as like a reader or just a person in general, leave them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer everybody's questions as best as I can. If you would like to see more of my videos, feel free to hit that subscribe button. You can like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't like it. It's free engagement for me either way. And let me know your answers to some of the questions in the comments, because I'd love to see if you guys have differing opinions to me. If you guys have any big gripes that I don't, I'd love to know what they are. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed. That's it for this video. Bye!